Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you here to the Gorst Dump Cleanup Celebration event. I'm Leonard Forsman. I'm chairman of the Suquamish Tribe, and it's a great honor to be here, have all the people here gathered that work so hard to make such a great statement for our environment. And of course, this has been a long process, and the Tribal Council in Suquamish has been hearing about this site for many years. And I'd like to acknowledge Allison O'Sullivan, one of our biologists from the tribe, for bringing it to our attention over time. And also bringing it to the attention of other agencies. And I'd also like to thank the EPA for their work in the past for putting this up on the top of their priority list as well. And I just think we reflect upon the way things used to be and the way things are today. And I know other speakers will be speaking to that as we move forward. But I think it's a great statement that we're making to our ancestors that we're here to try to do the right thing as we move forward and try to respect this land in a traditional, and cultural, and a spiritual way. Of course, our ancestors relied on Gorst Creek for the salmon runs and the fresh water that it provided. And at the mouth of Gorst Creek was a great place of concourse and occupation by our tribe for thousands of years. And we have some important stories that go with the land and the water and the shorelines at Gorst Creek and at Gorst itself today. As you know, the quarry site was a site for a story about the basket ogress and how she had taken some children and they were able to overcome her capture of them and push her into a fire, and she ended up exploding, and most of those are found as jellyfish today in Sinclair Inlet. And there was also a place where large athletic contests were held near that quarry as well. So we have a lot of important history and culture at this spot that's connected to this watershed. And we've been able to honor those memories by doing this work. So I know it was hard for a lot of folks, and just appreciate the Navy coming forward and helping pay for this. And I appreciate you being here, both the Admiral and the Captain being here as well. We're going to go ahead and acknowledge some of the work by calling up our Chief Kitsap Academy singers, who are going to provide a couple songs to thank everybody that's been working on this, and also acknowledge our ancestors and the important spiritual and cultural importance of this place. That's been here in our territory for so long. This corridor was traveled by our people that went over to Hood Canal back and forth to harvest fish in Union River, and also to be here in Gorst Creek. So if you guys could come forward here, we'll have our singers come forward, and they're going to do one song, and then we're going to have our royalty introduce themselves.
Hello everybody, my name is Cassidy Jackson. I'm Suquamish, I'm from Suquamish, and I'm Senior Miss Renewal 2017-2018. Thank you for being here. Kulisha Bay Seats Suquamish to Alcha Duf Suquam. My name is Kulisha Bays. I am Suquamish, and I am Junior Miss Chief Seattle Days 2017-2018, and I thank you all for coming.
So behind me, again, are students of Chief Kitsap Academy. We are a tribal compact school. As you can hear, our students speaking Lashutsi, the traditional language of the Suquamish people. And so we have been learning a little bit about covert cases, and so that's our history that we ingrain in our classrooms, and our language is our English that we're learning. So again, we wanted to raise our hands up to you. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for coming.
I'm Jeff Roden. I was the EPA project manager for this site and spent most of the past 2 years working here every day. As you're aware, we're here to celebrate today what's the restoration of what was the Gorst Creek landfill and is now Gorst Creek and a ravine. Previously, this site, all the way across that far fence to the auto wrecking yard, was about at the level you're at right now.
It is a privilege to be able to share this special occasion with all of you today as we recognize the restoration of Gorst Creek. I am happy to see this area, one of our state's wonderful natural resources, and in a way, our backyard here in Kitsap County, being restored. Like you, we love the natural beauty and rich cultural history of this region, and because of that, the Navy remains committed to being the best steward of the environment we can be. The Navy has great respect for the tribes and federal, state, and local officials whose efforts contribute to the preservation of natural and cultural resources, as well as contribute to our collective sense of community. These partnerships are vital to the health and wellness of our region. We are grateful for these partnerships because they mutually benefit the Navy and our partners in protecting our lands and waters and in supporting ecologically sound conservation and sustainable land uses that are also compatible with the Navy's mission. The Navy's critical operations here in the Northwest prepare our nation's bravest men and women to defend our great nation and our way of life. As we meet our mission, we remain committed to being the best possible neighbors in our shared community. Wearing this uniform, I have often been thanked for my service to this nation. While I appreciate their words of thanks, I am also very much aware of the fact that there are many other people who also diligently work to keep our region and our nation going strong through public service. People like many of you here today, you may not wear a uniform like I do, but you are nonetheless serving this community and working to make our home better. No one person or organization can successfully achieve our environmental stewardship goals alone. It takes a community and all of the partnership among individuals and groups within this community to align and take the actions necessary to accomplish our shared goals. And this project is a reflection of exactly that. I am appreciative of the partnership the Navy has with all of you, and projects like Gorst Creek restoration that serve as a shining example of what a community can do when it comes together in the name of our shared conservation and stewardship. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here today. Thank you for joining us. I'm really proud of the strong partnerships that have already been mentioned, but particularly with the Suquamish tribe, the Navy, the state, and the county on our efforts here. And thank you, Chairman Forsman, for your special welcome and for the singers and dancers for their sharing with us. We very much appreciate that today. And thank you, Rear Admiral, for being here with us today. We appreciate you and your team and your staff working hard with us on this effort. I also want to acknowledge a couple of other people who put this celebration together, and that's always a lot of effort and work to put on something this nice for all of us. First, April A. from the Suquamish tribe. I'm going to say thank you. A little shout out to you. Sheila Murray from the Navy. Gina Piazza, Allison Hart, and James Wetstein from the Washington Fish and Wildlife, and Karen Bevers from Kitsap County Public Health District. So thank you all for putting this event on today. And thank you for the state and local and elected federal officials that are here. I think that's really an impressive showing that you're here to support us all as we work together. So we're here to celebrate the partnerships that we've talked about and the cleanup of the Bremerton landfill. And I get to tell you a little bit about this project. Jeff's giving you some facts, but I'm going to say a little bit more. This was an impressive undertaking. And for the last 2 years, EPA teams with our cleanup contractors have worked to excavate this massive landfill site. And it wasn't an easy project, but you can see the results behind me, and we're going to get a little tour of them after we're done speaking. So in just over 2 years, we completely removed and safely disposed or recycled over 337,000 tons of trash, debris, hazardous materials for reuse and disposal at certified waste sites. So we're proud to say that these efforts fully remove the toxic materials and debris from this site, and this will prevent any further downstream pollution or toxic chemicals, and it will protect water quality for the people and the fish and wildlife. So a unique feature of this cleanup for us was really to make this a greener effort and a more sustainable project from beginning to end. So we discovered during the investigation of this 50-plus-year-old landfill that there was a lot more there than just trash and hazardous materials. So our cleanup teams constructed and planned the cleanup so that we could recover and reuse recyclable materials as much as possible rather than putting them in another landfill someplace else. So by way of example of that, our teams recovered over 100 tons of reusable granite that was donated to Bremerton, Paulsbo, and Kitsap County Parks Departments, as well as Olympic College for use in benches and other outdoor features. We also recovered nearly 900 tons of scrap metal, tires, concrete that were made available for commercial reuse and recycling. And thanks to careful planning, most of the native trees and shrubs that were cleared during the construction were saved and reused to control erosion and restore the landscape and stream habitat. So the completion of the excavation, we removed also nearly 4,000 tons of hazardous and toxic materials for safe disposal at permitted landfills. So this was a unique cleanup in a lot of different ways, and one in particular was we actually removed the entire landfill. And that was to restore 1,000 feet of Gorst Creek, which had been buried under the landfill for over 50 years. So this was a team effort, as we know, to say the least, and we're particularly proud of our partnerships, as I mentioned, and particularly with the tribe, who we know how important the stream restoration is to the tribe and this place. We worked closely with Suquamish, with strong support from their environmental staff, and that was very key to the successful restoration. So again, thank you to the Navy, the tribe, Washington State, Kitsap County, and many others. And I also want to acknowledge Jeff Roden, who's our MC here, who's led this project and put, I think, his heart and soul into it, it's fair to say. He was here, as he said, every day for a few years. But also, I want to acknowledge that we have quite a number of our EPA staff here with us today who, you know, it takes a village to do something like this. We have staff who are technical experts, we have staff who are financial experts, our administrative team, that really are the people behind us that get a lot of work done as well. And I want to acknowledge them, and I would just ask that if you're an EPA staff member who worked on this project, maybe you could just stand and we'll give you a quick round of applause. So thanks everybody for being here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Jeff said, I am Tom Jamison. I'm here to represent the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, which played a relatively minor role in what was truly a wide-ranging partnership, resulting in the removal of this landfill and the restoration of this beautiful site. It's an honor to stand here today with the Suquamish tribe, the United States Navy Region Northwest, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Kitsap County Commissioner, members of Kitsap Public Health District, and other members of the government and local community. The Department of Fish and Wildlife has been involved with this site for decades. As the landfill grew and the decaying culvert beneath the landfill became compromised, Fish and Wildlife biologists became engaged and permitting the activities of the Washington State Department of Transportation and local governments in clearing trash, which would periodically block the existing culvert under State Route 3 and points downstream, which are to your left. When the EPA, the Navy, and the Suquamish tribe came together to clean up and restore this site, fish and wildlife biologists and engineers were welcomed into the project design and permitting process. Today, we can all celebrate this amazing cleanup and habitat restoration. This site is a wonderful example of what can happen when all of these entities work together. From its headwaters and wetlands above us to its estuary at Sinclair Inlet, Gorst Creek is a salmon and steelhead stream. There's still work to be done on Gorst Creek to fully restore fish passage all the way to this site, and we will continue to work to get fish passage barriers that lie downstream of here corrected. On behalf of the Department of Fish and Wildlife, I want to thank the EPA, the Navy, the Suquamish tribe, and Kitsap County for what their leadership and actions have accomplished at this site. After some more comments by Jeff, I'll be followed by Charlotte Garrido, the Kitsap County Commissioner. Thank you.
Wow, what a dramatic change we see behind me. We didn't know as much as we do now 50 or 60 years ago. Our waste was something just to throw away. We didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to where that went. And so this land took waste from auto wrecking yards, medical waste, demolition debris, municipal solid waste, and it just piled up and piled up. And then in the 60s, the stream was put into a culvert and covered over with more garbage. Thankfully, we know a whole lot more today than we did then. Our awareness has grown, and our partnerships to reach today's place have been phenomenal. I can't say thank you enough to each and every state and federal agency and local agency that played a part in today's celebration and what we see on this landscape. They've worked for many, many years toward today. And as we heard, tons and tons and tons of hazardous and non-hazardous waste were removed from this wonderful stream. I look forward to coming back in a year and 5 years and 10 years and more to look at how this stream is recovering, how the work that went into today's restoration, today's point, grows into a beautiful, natural, reclaimed landscape. So thank you again for each and every one of you for being here today and for each agency's efforts to bring us here today.
I'd like to thank the Suquamish tribe, EPA, and the Navy for this opportunity to say a few words about this achievement and to recognize a few key individuals and agencies. But first, a little background. When I arrived at the Health District 20 years ago, the first task I had was to hold a stakeholder meeting to identify how to respond to the flooding that had occurred at the landfill that winter. The flooding had carried sediment, debris, and garbage hundreds of feet downstream. In that instance, the city of Bremerton removed the sediment from the stream north of the highway, and the Washington Department of Transportation cleaned up and restored the stream channel immediately downstream of the landfill. Some version of that response scenario would repeat itself multiple times over the next 19 years. For those of you who never saw the site before the restoration, this entire ravine was filled with the landfill, and the stream was carried underneath the fill through an undersized pipe. During the rainy season, water would back up behind the landfill, and if the water levels got high enough, it would begin washing over the top of the landfill, carrying trash, vegetation, and debris downstream. The worst case scenario, one that kept me up on rainy nights, was what could happen if there was a catastrophic failure of the landfill. This could have released a large volume of water, vegetation, and debris, obstructing the culvert and flooding Highway 3, the only major land route into Kitsap County. Thankfully, that scenario never came to pass. Instead, we have over 1,000 feet of restored salmon stream habitat. I would like to thank a few people individually. Grant Holdcroft with the Health District, who hacked a path through Scotch broom and blackberries each year for wintertime inspections, and who basically rode herd on this project for the Health District. Jeff Roden with EPA, who patiently and graciously, I might add, fielded 15 years of calls from our office and who was ultimately responsible for finding a solution. To the Suquamish tribe for its persistent advocacy for a full cleanup and restoration, and most importantly to the U.S. Navy, who paid the bill. I'd like to believe that it was just the right combination of effort by all of us that finally made all the pieces come together to achieve this outcome. Like many of you here, I've spent many years working in the environmental field. Most victories we see are small incremental improvements, sometimes measured in the parts per billion. So being able to witness such an amazing transformation in 2 years is hugely gratifying. Thank you all very much, and please enjoy the celebration.
We have our 6 ceremonial plantings today, but prior to that, there's over 7,500 plants spread amongst the slopes of the ravine here that we put in this past fall.
So are we just putting a plant in there? We are. I'm gonna rock.
Yes, you gotta take them out of the plastic tub. Over 2,000 cubic yards of the bulk. Feel free to take a look around.
I think the easiest path is through here.
And it's so beautifully clear. I mean, it's just, we're hoping to catch a cutthroat or something coming up. So we get a picture.